Hey guys, today I felt like painting a Space Marine. My propensity to kind of bounce around projects and not stick with any single one for a long time is on full display here, but I've decided to go back to the army that I started when I bought the Leviathan box, and that is painting my Magenta Space Marines. I just wanted to say quickly as well, I recently came back from 2.5 weeks overseas with my partner. While I was away, I uploaded a video and it did really well. Not so much in views, as it's definitely not the most viewed video on my channel, but a lot of subscribers came through from that video for some reason. So I want to say thank you to all of you for jumping on, and hello to all of you. Sorry for not making another video for 2 weeks because I was away, and when I came back I realized that I'd lost my external hard drive somewhere containing all of the pre-recorded footage that I had ready to go and edit a video as soon as I got back into the country. So hence starting another brand new project with this guy. Now, to start out this scheme, I airbrushed the model with a dark purple. Now, I used royal purple from Vallejo Model Color for this. I think on all of my others I actually used my other Vallejo Model Color Violet, but honestly it's a dark purple. It's mostly going to be covered up. It's just a base that doesn't matter so much. I think this color just has a little bit more red in it as opposed to the more blue that the violet tone is. Now zenithal highlighting the model, I'm using Vallejo Game Color Warlord Purple, very thinned down so as it doesn't sputter through the airbrush. And you can see by the way I'm holding it and where the airbrush is, I'm targeting the model top down. And that's just kind of creating a natural gradient, you know, on cylinders. It's catching on the top portion and leaving more of that base purple underneath, so it creates a very quick and easy shadow. Now, since the Marine's legs are all essentially cylinders, I kind of target the front, leave the sides, target the back, and that kind of allows some of that light to naturally blend around the side of the model as well. I then went in with Vallejo Game Color Squid Pink and added some top-down highlights and just really targeted some key areas of the model I wanted to pronounce. And then I just gradually added some more white ink using Liquitex's titanium white ink, which thins down the pink, obviously adds white, brightens it up. It does desaturate it a little bit, but the ink flows through the airbrush very nicely so as it doesn't sputter and create any, you know, grossness that white paint going through an airbrush generally can. I then use violet ink through an airbrush from underneath, so doing essentially exactly the opposite of the zenithal highlight, and just re-establish some shadows. If you're enjoying the content and want to support the channel, I've opened up channel memberships. This will grant you access to some awesome perks like small things such as member-only posts and polls like what I should work on next, or bigger things like the chance to be given projects that I work on for the channel, such as the Cerastus Knight Lancer I painted a few videos ago, all while supporting me in making these videos. If you don't want to, or you do want to but you simply can't support in that way, that's absolutely fine. I just appreciate you watching these videos. But anyone that does help support me in this should know that it goes a massive way in helping me continue to make these videos, so I really appreciate it. Cheers guys. I then sprayed the model with a gloss varnish and let that sit for about an hour, and once that was dry I mixed up an oil wash. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I love using oils, and I will be making a full video on oils eventually. It's actually one of the next videos I plan to do. It's just, having lost all of that footage, I was going to use a lot of footage from projects that I'd already done to demonstrate effects, but I guess I'm gonna have to just re-record a lot of stuff. So mixing together some Abteling 502 oils and using Abteling 502's fast dry thinner, I create a thin down wash consistency with oil. And you can see once the model's gloss varnished, so nice and slippery, I can just put it on a brush and just tap it into any of the crevices, and you can watch it just flow right off the brush into all of the cracks. Now, because the gloss varnish has protected the paint with that thick layer, it relieves a lot of surface tension, so it doesn't like to spread out across the model. It will just fall, like, it'll follow whatever path of least resistance it can, which is generally all just these little cracks. You can do this without a gloss varnish, but you'll find that it does soak into the paint a little bit more, and wherever you touch it, it can kind of bleed out across flat surfaces within the paint. This can be perfect for certain effects, like tinting and, you know, just kind of adding some grime, weathering and whatnot to, you know, cloth or armor, I'd recommend playing around with how your oils react with different levels of varnish. You know, even putting one or more layers of varnish can make a huge difference. So as always, just experiment with it and you'll kind of get a feel for how they like to behave. I then just took some of that same squid pink and mixed it in with some heavy body white and then some flow improver from Vallejo and just edge highlighted around the model. I do also apologize for some of these shots being slightly out of focus. I realize now that I'd gone through and set up the camera again because I obviously took this camera overseas and took a lot of photos and whatnot, but I'd forgotten to change the focus mode, so it was struggling to pull focus on the miniature and like to kind of drift off to the background every now and again. I wanted to add some small bits of chipping, so I just took a really beaten up brush and with some Rhinox hide just kind of tapped it around the model. Nothing fancy or complicated, but, you know, adds a little bit of character. I then did my absolutely least favorite step of any miniature and went around and blacked out all of the, you know, non-armor parts of the model. I think for this I used Pearl Krill's black, which is a black that has fantastic coverage. It dries nice and matte. It's not as matte as the Scale 75 black that I have, but I generally prefer a more matte finish for this kind of blacking out stage because I can go for whatever finish I want on top of that. I then added some grey to the ribbing. I don't remember exactly which grey it was. It was one of the Vallejo model color ones that have a little bit of blue in it, but honestly any grey would work. Or even just adding some white to your black. Using a makeup brush, I mixed some black in with some stone grey, which is, you know, a nice warm grey, so it's kind of different from the other blacks, and just dry brushed the weapon quickly. I then went around and just edge highlighted some of the top portions with that stone grey again. Using some of my favorite metallics, the Vallejo metal color line, I picked out exhaust manifold, which is just a darker gunmetal that's a little bit on the warmer side, and picked out the jet vents. I then gave them a quick wash with my mixture of Agrax Earthshade, Nuln Oil, and some thinner, which is pretty much what I slap over all of my metallics. And you'll notice in the previous step, I actually, with an airbrush, just slapped some gloss varnish all over the shoulders, and that's because I realized I'd forgotten to do transfers. So I put them on, and then using some Microsol, I painted that over and left it to sit for about 15 minutes, which softens up the transfer film itself and allows you to kind of conform it better. So you can see I'm using a Q-tip to just press down and roll it across the transfer, which smoothens it out across the shoulder pad. After I'd sprayed a matte varnish over this model, it still had some of the film showing around the edges, so I just quickly went in with some of that violet ink and Warlord purple and mixing it back and forth here and there, and just quickly covered that up. I also used some Warlord purple just to add a couple of little scratches and chips across the transfers, just to kind of make them feel a little bit more baked in. Using a very crappy brush again. I like to use beaten up brushes for dry brushes like this. I used some Vallejo Model Air Chrome to just add some very scratchy, uneven highlight / dry brushes. Now one of my favorite colors, and again one of my favorite metallics, I used Decayed Metal from Scale 75 and base coated the gold. I then gave it a quick wash with the same Agrax and Nuln Oil wash mix. And then, just like the silver metallics, gave it a scratchy, uneven edge highlight / dry brush, and this was with Scale 75's Elven Gold. I keep experimenting with this stuff with varied results, but I gave the gold a couple of little spots of verdigris. Now I know it's gold, and gold doesn't necessarily oxidize the same way, but I don't really care. It looks cool and adds a little bit more color and interest to the model. It doesn't need to make sense. I quickly painted the straps by base coating them with Rhinox hide and then using Games Workshop's Mornfang brown and then Scrag brown, and just not even blending. I just kind of added layer on layer that was slightly brighter, and towards the more raised edge I kind of followed the path of the armor where it was already brighter. It was now time to paint the head. I decided to actually do an unhelmeted head, which is rare for me. So I base coated with way too thinned paint, so I did a ton of layers, using a mixture of Bugman's Glow and Screamer Pink, which is, you know, gives it a nice base flesh tone, but also a little bit more pink, a little bit more red, and darkens it up a little bit. And then I was very careful and targeted downward and from a specific angle with Cadian flesh tone thinned down through an airbrush. I kind of winged it on this face purely because I don't think I've painted a face for well over a year, so I don't even remember how I did the last one or how I used to do them. I added some titanium white ink to the Cadian flesh tone and just did a quick highlight, again through an airbrush very carefully. Took the same angle but just covered less surface area. I moved the face to kind of the edge so as I could get a better angle, and I did the same as the purple ink on the armor and kind of added a reverse zenithal shadow to the face, and I wanted to add a little bit more color into it. So this was using Games Workshop's the contrast paint Doomfire Magenta straight through an airbrush. So I targeted mostly that darker side, but then added a little bit of red just to that edge of the brighter side as well. And I think this came out really cool for how long it took. Using a detail brush, I then just kind of went around the outer edges and then, you know, around the eyes, the sockets, the eyebrows, and a couple of very, very thin layers on the forehead creases, forehead wrinkles, and that was just a thin brush with a tiny amount of Carroburg Crimson wash. I tried to keep this in focus as much as I could, but it's just a tiny, tiny little thing, and my camera is actually about a meter or 2/3 of a meter in the air, so it's a little bit difficult, but I think we did okay. I then wanted to add a little bit of texture and some scratchiness. I went in with some Cadian flesh tone. Truth be told, I don't know if this made much of a difference. I couldn't see it in person. I guess you can see a little bit more texture on camera, but I don't think this is necessary at all. And I kind of called the face down there. I could have done the eyes, but you know, this is just a rank and file infantryman essentially, and eventually I want to have a full army of these guys done, so I'm not going to go too crazy with a model like just an Assault Marine Sergeant. Just like the rest of the Marine, I blacked out everything and you know, you can see just the flesh by itself. I think it came out really, really cool because I did it in probably 10 minutes and didn't really have any struggle with, you know, going back and forth, messing anything up. Like, it was just a super simple process. So I'm a fan of doing faces this way now. I stippled on some Stonewall Grey mixed with black into the hair, and then I just dry brushed some of that same blue grey over the facial parts, and then added some white into that blue grey and just added some quick edge highlights over his little face mask. Then just with a tiny tap of super glue, I was able to fix his head to the model. And yeah, adding a little bit of a flesh face. I still think unhelmeted heads are kind of dumb, but weirdly enough, with Marines at least, I think they look cool. Now moving on, I decided to leave his power fist, kind of the top of the gauntlet, off so as I could do the same thing as my Terminators, and that is a yellow hazard stripe pattern. I really like the sculpt of these models. Leaving little details like this separate makes life so much easier. I got excited and forgot to record it, but obviously I painted it in a couple of layers of titanium white ink. I then went over it in Scale 75's Inktense Yellow with a few layers, and then using Games Workshop's contrast paint Cyan and Yellow, I added kind of an orangey shadow. I then left that to dry for a fair while because we're going to be masking over it and I didn't want to pull any of that paint off, so I went and painted the plasma glow. So again, I should have done this at the same time as I did the gauntlet, but I added a little bit of a white halo with some titanium white ink, and then went in with that same ink on a brush just because it's very opaque, covers extremely well off a brush, and flows really well into these little details without obscuring anything. But yeah, using a brush, I just filled in the plasma coil. And then using an airbrush, I didn't use any fluoro colors this time for glow, which is weird for me. But I used Citadel Colors Athematic Blue, which is just kind of a greeny teal blue, and went over that plasma weapon in a couple of thin passes. Then the same way as I do all my plasma guns, I went in with white ink again and just went around the outer edge of the entire coil just to add a bright spot on the outside, almost like it's kind of emanating from inside the gun. And then with one or two more thin coats of Athematic Blue, I just tinted that bright area, which also then darkens down the rest of it and kind of just ties it all together. Adding a little bit more contrast, I used some Stegonon Scale Green, which is kind of more of a blue, but I just edge highlighted the top of the coils, which darkens them up and kind of really differentiates them more from the inside of the coil. I then laid down some painter's tape and cut some thin stripes out, and then peeling them up, I was able to carefully lay them over the gauntlet. I think I'd let the paint dry for roughly about an hour before I did this, so I was a touch worried, but I kind of just wanted to get the model done in one evening. So I took the risk of pulling some of that yellow paint up when I unmasked it and just kind of went for it. Now it was time to paint the unmasked section of the gauntlet with black. So I used some Pearl Krill black through an airbrush and just did many thin coats because I don't want to spray this too fast. If too much paint builds up on the gauntlet while, you know, compressed air is still flowing through the airbrush and pushing it through, if there's any gaps or seams that I don't overspray from the tape, it could easily push it under that tape and you can get weird streaking. My masking job wasn't quite perfect there. There was a little bit of bleeding, but that's kind of easy enough to fix up with a paintbrush after. I then just added some quick chips and scratches and fixed up a couple of the edges. I wasn't super concerned about this because, again, it is just a rank and file dude. But just to blend it in with some of the scratches and battle damage on the rest of the model, I think it was worth taking the, you know, minute or so to do this. Then again, with a quick dollop of super glue, I was able to fix this to the model. I like to keep the super glue kind of on the most interior part of the piece as I can, and obviously I'm not going to use a lot of it because I don't want any of it to squeeze out onto the model, but super glue can kind of frost when it dries, so I try to keep it as internal as I can so I can avoid that bleeding onto the rest of the model. After fixing that, I painted a quick base just with a couple of browns and slapping some snow texture all over it. And this is how he turned out. For an evening's work for a single Marine, I think he turned out pretty good. This color is always just, I don't know, it kind of stuns me every time I finish a model. I don't think it's going to look that great until I finish it, and then I realize just kind of how great and how proud of this color scheme I am, weirdly enough. If you found anything helpful from this video, make sure you like and subscribe. A lot of you have jumped on, but for the vast majority of the videos, only 5% of you guys that watch are actually subscribed. So if you want to see more of that, do so. If you want to support me in making these videos, you can join my channel memberships where there's a whole bunch of awesome perks available. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.